All of which contribute to the welcoming environment we enjoy every day. Our grounds and campus continue to flourish. The addition of seasonal flowers and hanging baskets has brought vibrant color to the community. And we are grateful to the residents for donating now up to 9 trees, as well as 1 additional tree donated by Ground Pros. Tree planting will take place over the next 3 to 5 weeks, and the replacement of dead plants is set to begin this week. Together, these efforts will help beautify our community for years to come. Resident engagement remains strong. The Garden Club launched its first meeting with an excellent response from residents, and the Summer House Carnival was a tremendous success. bringing neighbors together for fun and memorable community events. One of the most exciting recent accomplishments was the grand opening of the Resident Art Gallery. This event was a huge success and showcased the incredible talent that exists within our community. A special thank you goes to the residents who generously submitted their personal artwork. Your creativity and willingness to share your talents helped make this project such a meaningful addition to Luther Village. Of course, no community update would be complete without mentioning some of our most popular residents, Victoria and Albert, and their family of 6 cygnets. Residents have enjoyed watching them throughout the grounds this season, and they continue to bring joy and excitement to many throughout the community. I would also like to recognize a very special milestone. Mary Starr, our nurse here, celebrates 20 years with the corporation. Mary's dedication, commitment, and service over the past 2 decades have positively impacted countless residents, families, and staff members. Please join me in congratulating and thanking Mary for her remarkable contribution to our organization. I would also like to recognize another valued member of the Luther Village family. After 36 years of dedicated service to the organization, Patty Blanco has announced her retirement. Patty is someone who most, if not all, of our residents know, and her impact on the community has been tremendous. Throughout her many years of service, she has built lasting relationships with residents, families, and staff and board members, and has played an important role in the success and history of Luther Village. In an important transition In addition to celebrating her remarkable career, Patty's retirement marks an important transition for the organization. As part of this change, we will be reviewing the future of the Luther Village stock transfer agent function and evaluating whether these responsibilities are best managed internally by our staff or through an outside organization. While Patty will certainly be missed, we are incredibly grateful for her dedication, commitment, and many contributions over the last 36 years, and we wish her a long, happy, and well-deserved retirement. Looking ahead, we're excited about the upcoming Alzheimer's Mini Walk, which will take place in mid-August. This event will provide residents, families, staff, and friends the opportunity to come together to in support of Alzheimer's awareness and research while promoting health, wellness, and community spirit. As always, I would like to thank our residents, employees, volunteers, and board members for their continued support and our partnership. Together, we continue to strengthen the Luther Village Drive. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the board? Joanne, what is the date for the Alzheimer's Walk?
That is going to be August 18th.
Okay.
14th. I was 4 days late. Sorry.
Okay.
I knew it was
Okay.
it's a
Very
Friday.
Okay. Friday, August the 14th.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what time that will be?
1 o'clock.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you.
Next is the report from the LCS brokerage office, will be given by the manager of the office, Claudia Melakranakis. Claudia?
Good morning, everybody. Our team echoes all the sentiment for Patty Blanco. She has been instrumental in all the closings that have occurred since day one here at Luther Village. She will be greatly missed, but she's very excited to be, I think she calls it a nonna, an Italian grandmother, nonna. Okay, so she's very excited to be that, so we're excited for her. As always, I will have a more comprehensive report at the actual board meeting. So this is a summary of what we have going on. I wanted to congratulate Charlene Jacobson for winning the $250 resident referral at the general residence meeting. We thank her for her referral. In the year of 2026, year to date, for sales, we have 33 sales year to date, and we have 32 closings year to date. We have 6 current listings, 3 of which are 1 bedrooms, and 3 of which are either villa or courtyard. The upcoming events we have, well, actually, in June, we attended the Arlington Heights Senior Expo. We had a table there. Then on October 13th, we will be at the Illinois Senior Expo in Palatine. On October 21st at 9:30 in the morning at the Arlington Heights Senior Center, Mark Trinka will be discussing senior living options as well as Luther Village. You must register to attend, and those details are not out yet. The registration link is not out yet. As soon as it is, we will share that with you. Internally, we have 2 more events for the rest of this year. On Monday, October 12th, we're going to be hosting another prospective buyer event. I think we're going to go with an Oktoberfest, and that will be where we send a direct mailer out, and we're looking for prospective buyers. Usually, we have about 50 to 80 people in those. On Monday, Monday, November 9th, we have our happy hour for the residents. And we fit about 190 people in there, and you must register for that, and that information is to follow. The other thing I wanted to talk about, maybe in bigger detail than I will at the board meeting, are leads. A couple of residents have asked me this, and I thought that maybe more of you might have the same questions and thoughts. Where do the leads come from? How many leads do we get? How do we qualify them? So I wanted to quickly talk about this. Leads that we get that call our office or walk in or reach out through the web, we get them through events we attend, events we host, resident referrals, professional referrals, word of mouth locally because Arlington Heights is strong with their residents, advertisements in the Daily Herald, both digital and print, our websites popular with people, and then the back-end work that we have done on the website to drive people in. So such as if you Google senior living options, we should pop up. Once they call our office or walk in or go through our web, we answer the phone and we kind of qualify them at a high level. Are you looking for independent living? Are you looking for a purchase community? Right off the bat, we can probably, we say goodbye to a lot of people and direct them otherwise. The next level of people calling us would be what we call unqualified leads, where they call in, they say that they're looking for independent living and purchasing the homes. But then when Jan and Karen get to really talking to them to properly qualify them, that's not indeed what they need. And so I want you to understand that those levels are happening here. The high level of phone in, then goes through Jan and Karen, and then they send them a different way as well. They might not qualify financially or medically. They might not understand what we are, and most of the time that's what we see. The other thing would be then once they do get through Jan and Karen and they seem like they're qualified, they make an appointment, then they meet with them. They go through tours and explain exactly what we are with our, so they determine that they would be a good qualified lead. So I want you to understand, about to date, we have about 329 of those unqualified leads who called in. About 154 of them actually got to, talk to Jan and Karen, make an appointment. Out of those 154, that will be years and years of working with them, relationship building. Most people aren't ready right away, trying to understand, is it the right fit? So it's kind of a process that we go through. Of course, that's what we do to properly qualify them and be in compliance with what the board of directors requires us to do. The other thing is I want to make mention that we're all licensed brokers in the office. We all have our real estate license except for Luann. We do business in accordance with the federal fair housing law. This is through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We must follow the law when we're also qualifying people. We cannot discriminate against any prospective buyer. It's illegal to discriminate against any person because of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability. And I know we all know that, but sometimes it's a good reminder to hear what those laws are. It takes a great deal of time in relationship building, understanding needs, qualifying them to make sure that people are where they should be when they come to Luther Village.
Thank you, Claudia. Any comments or questions from the board? If not, thank you, Claudia, and we'll get a more detailed presentation at the board meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is an overview of the current negotiations going on with the LCS for the brokerage contract, and Russ Crum will speak to that.
The committee had reviewed the proposal back from LCS on the contract and had some minor modifications. We've agreed as a committee to these and passed it through our legal counsel to make sure that we weren't making some missteps that we shouldn't. And as of late yesterday, we have sent our proposal back to LCS. Obviously, I haven't heard back because they didn't get it till this morning. But that's where it stands. There were no major impediments, I don't think. So we think we should be able to resolve things in short order, with at least in plenty of time for the current contract when it will expire.
Okay, again, any questions, comments from the board on the negotiations? When, Russ, when does the current contract end? Do
I
we
think
know?
it's not September. Sharon, do you know? August 31st.
Okay, very good, thank you. Next item on the agenda, again, will be from Russ Crum, an overview of the Capital Reserve Fund investment.
Gee, we could be a popular guy here. The board, you will recall at the last board meeting, adopted a motion that we proceed to invest our capital reserve funds with Wintrust investors. It's the arm of Wintrust Bank that deals with major investments. We've met with the Wintrust people. They came back to us with several proposals of a selection of investments that would be made that satisfy the Luther Village investment policy, and the motion was passed by the board. The Finance Committee sat down with the Wintrust people and we discussed those. We selected one of theirs as being probably the most suitable, and we're now waiting for them to come back. They have to draw up all the proper paperwork with all the signatures that are required legally. We had one slowdown as under federal law. Those of us that are signatories had to turn in questionnaire, and that was all. We all had to be checked out to make sure we weren't laundering money someplace that's not legal, and so that's a federal item that we all passed. So so we're waiting now for the actual contract with Wintrust to come back to us for our signatures. Just for information, the model that they use are model investment portfolios that are developed by various places, rather than them having a broker sit down and come up with a selection of investments. The particular one that we picked does consist of 15 different funds, not individual stocks, but these in turn are ETF funds. So it's a very broad selection, and it was designed to come close to the 50/50 split between equity and debt that the board adopted. Obviously, that changes from day to day slightly, and the agreement we have is that they will review the investments quarterly to see if there are any adjustments that need to be made in the funds to keep it in line with the goals and with 50/50. So we're waiting for them to come back with the proper paperwork for us to sign, and then Sharon will proceed to transfer funds to them. She has to do calculations to satisfy the requirements that we are we're liquid for funding out a certain period of time, so she has to look ahead to the capital funds, capital projects that are going on and where funds might be needed. One thing in the investment portfolio that they propose to us, it does hold about 2% in cash. So that's easy to satisfy the liquidity funds that we have. So that's the status.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the board? Russ, you made use to a acronym, what, ETF funds? ETF stands for?
Exchange traded funds. Okay. An ETF is similar to a mutual fund, except it behaves like a stock and it's traded on the market during the day, where a mutual fund is evaluated at the end of the trading day. So but other than that, they're very similar in construction.
Okay, very good, thank you. Next report item on the agenda is a summary report on the 2026 board retreat, and that'll be given by Carol Micah.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I am very happy to report that the second annual board retreat held on June 3rd, 2026 at Rolling Green Country Club in Arlington Heights was a very rewarding day for all the directors. The presenters for the day were Angela Schneff, President and CEO of Leading Age, Illinois and Iowa, and Jason Speaks, Executive Director of Leading Age, Illinois. The total expenses for the retreat were $1,300.26, and that comprised of $801.40 to Rolling Green Country Club for room rental, continental breakfast, and lunch plus gratuity. $200 for Visa cards given to the presenters as a thank you, and $298.86 for binders, pens, and paper supplies for the retreat. Our retreat objectives were to provide dedicated time to collaborate, collect, and foster teamwork among the board members, and also to engage in discussions that would lead to meaningful planning within our Luther Village community, which can connect to our mission statements. I feel we accomplished what we set out to do and benefited greatly from the very lively discussions. The exchange of questions and answers with the presenters was very informative and rewarding. The topics for the retreat were current trends in senior living and the shifting attitudes of seniors as to what they want and expect in senior housing, strategic planning and ways to get started and implement our long-range plans, and how to develop a healthy working relationship between the board of directors and the executive director, and board involvement in day-to-day operations. The format of the planned sessions got modified that morning, and it allowed for more time to have discussions and questions and answer exchanges with the presenters. For the time you spent reflecting on the experiences of the day, the discussions we had, and for the serious thought you gave to your comments and feedback on the evaluation forms completed after the board retreat. There were many excellent suggestions given for next year's retreat, possible topics for discussion, and some ideas that might interest a strategic planning committee. I wish to express my gratitude to the members of the committee Joyce Bader, Bob O'Connor, and Bill Stenzel, who contributed ideas, suggestions, and helped coordinate the retreat. The supporting documents and information for planning both the 2025 and the 2026 board retreats are being gathered, and those files will be available in the Board of Directors' office for next year's committee to reference for the third annual board retreat. And just as a personal note, it's going to be wonderful to get them out of my apartment. Okay. Thank you very much for allowing me to serve as this year's chairman for the board retreat committee. And I appreciate all the help and wonderful participation from the entire board that resulted in another productive and rewarding board retreat. Thank you.
Any questions, comments from the board members? I'd like to echo to you, Carol, I think a feeling from all the board members. We want to thank you for all the work that you put in making the retreat successful this year. Thank you very, very much. This is an announcement, but I think it is somewhat appropriate at this point. Carol mentioned that our two speakers at the retreat this year were both connected with Leading Age. And it turns out that Leading Age is having their annual conference in Schaumburg next week. And I believe several of the board members are planning to attend either one or both of the days. It turns out that as a member of Leading Age, that by that I mean Luther Village, board members are allowed to attend at no cost. And there are some sessions that are particularly designed for trustees or board members. So I believe it's the last count I had, the 7 board members will be attending at least one of the 2 days. Next item on the agenda is an update on the land lease litigation, and I'm going to ask Jack McCarthy to speak to that.
Thank you, Bill. As most of our shareholders are aware, in June of 2025, the Circuit Court in Cook County ruled against Luther Village Owners Corporation in the dispute over the calculation of ground rent. This litigation was initiated when our landlord, WP Venture 4 Capital LLC, filed suit against us, claiming that we had been underpaying the rent on the ground lease that was executed in conjunction with the development of our community. The ground was and still is owned by Lutheran Life Communities, the parent organization for Lutheran Home for the Aged. WP4 Venture Capital LLC purchased the right to collect the rent on the ground lease at an auction. When the Circuit Court ruled in favor of WP4 Venture Capital, your board of directors voted to appeal the Circuit Court ruling. The law firm Skadden Arps continued to represent Luther Village in our petition to the First District Appellate Court of Illinois, and all parties submitted briefs detailing their arguments with respect to the ruling of the Circuit Court. The Appellate Court reviewed all submitted documents, and the 3-judge panel sought additional information from all parties. That additional information was presented at a hearing of oral arguments on Thursday, June 10th of this year. Late last evening, our General Counsel, Dan Wolf, sent me an email indicating that the appellate court clerk notified Skadden Arps that the justices would issue their ruling on Friday, July 10th, after 10 a.m. Skadden Arps and Dan Wolf will review the opinion and advise us afterwards. So we're getting close to a decision. What it's going to be, nobody can speculate. So we just have to be patient expertise of our legal representatives at Skadden Arps, as well as our general counsel, Dan Wolf. And we'll hear from them within a short period of time, I'm sure, after the ruling comes down.
Okay. Thank you, Jack. Again, any questions, comments from the board?
Jack, if the ruling is in our favor, I think, doesn't this kick it back to the circuit court then for further action?
My understanding is that if the ruling on Friday is in our favor, the whole question goes back to the original judge at the circuit court level.
Yeah.
And one comment that was made after we, as a board, all had an opportunity to view the oral argument hearing via Zoom, was that if it goes in our favor, judges don't like to be overruled. And they certainly detest being overruled a second time. So that's a kind of a positive that if it goes back to the circuit court, that court, I believe, has the option of opening it up to a trial by jury or having the litigation decided by the judge once again. So we don't know how that's going to play out.
So
Yeah,
it goes
Jack-
back to the
I'm sorry.
court. She's not going to be a happy camper. That's what you're saying.
She's going to be a very careful camper.
Jack, you said nobody can speculate what the outcome will be. My thought was, well, everyone's going to speculate what the outcome is going to be, but what we can't do is predict with any real reliability.
Nobody can predict what's going to happen. I think we all felt very good prior to the ruling coming down at the circuit court level.
Yeah.
And to say that that was a gut punch is an understatement.
Yeah. Again, any other comments or questions from the board? Anything at all? Bob?
Jack, is there a time frame associated with the next series of judicial?
Not at this point, Bob. I think that after the ruling is reviewed by all of the attorneys, then they will develop a recommendation to the board as to what our next action might be. And we just have to wait to hear back from those experts.
Okay. Jack, thank you very much. And I am going to presume that we'll have some mechanism in place after the result comes down on Friday to try to get that information out to the residents. We'll have to talk about that. Very good. Thank you. That concludes continuing business for today's meeting. Moving down the agenda under new business, we have the 2026 annual report from the Dining Standing Committee, and that is to be presented by Joe McCarthy. Joe, are you here? There you are. Okay. And I would advise the board that the Dining Committee, Joe has also submitted a paper copy of the report she's going to give.
Good morning. I believe this report should begin with a huge thank you to the members of the Dining Committee. This committee and dedication have us well on the road to achieving one of our primary objectives, which is to improve communications between the Dining Committee and residents and the staff. This is evidenced in the suggestions that are made at the monthly meetings and the conversations that follow those suggestions. Inputs from the committee members and residents have increased dramatically over the past several months. We have some of them implemented by Lori Wagner, our Director of Dining, and our new executive chef, Matt Mocker. We would also like to acknowledge Juan for the outstanding job he did in ensuring that the meals were planned, prepared, and served. without an executive chef. The dining committee was generally pleased with the number of residents who participated in the special dining events held in the first half of the year. We continue to hope for increased attendance at both the Grill and the Lakeview Club, as the only way we can sustain the operations of these dining options is through increased participation by our residents. The number of people who attended the band's performance in Cinco de Mayo and the Grill was very encouraging, as was the turnout for Memorial Day brunch, Mother's Day brunch, the Kentucky Derby dinner party, and other traditional themed events. We ask all our residents to continue your support for the dining department as we go forward. Your suggestions and comments are encouraged so we can continue to see improvement. Revenue improvement in menu selection, and a year-end financial statement that shows we have broken the trend of dining not meeting its financial goals. And I want to thank the board for inviting me to give this report.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions, comments from anyone on the board? If not, thank you very much, Joe. And thanks to all the members of the dining committee. Thank you. Continuing with the agenda, there are several proposals on the agenda at this point that deal with changes in the committee structure of the board. The changes are included in the workshop today so that we can have discussion and questions of each of the proposals, with the plan that each proposal will be offered either as a motion or as a resolution at the next board meeting on July the 27th. Each board member received an email on July the 1st that identified each of the proposed changes along with commentary. And copies of that email has been distributed to each of the board members this morning in addition. Proposal 1 on the agenda reads as follows: replace the Long-Range Planning Permanent Committee with a Strategic Planning Permanent Committee. And let me make a few words taken from the commentary before we begin our discussion. The commentary for the change states the following: the current Long-Range Planning Committee has not been functioning in a manner consistent with its label. Rather, it has been functioning more as a, quote, planning committee with a focus on activities, while important, appear to overlap with the responsibilities of the executive director. The commentary goes on to identify numerous activities described in the March 21st minutes of the committee that appear to more appropriately be a responsibility of the executive director. The commentary goes on to describe a permanent strategic planning committee of the board that would be tasked to providing written recommendations and reports to the board to address the following issues: recommend annual goals for the Luther Village Board of Directors, identify and facilitate revisions as needed in the Luther Village Resident Handbook and the Luther Village Document Summary, to research, identify, and recommend changes, both physical and operational. It says 3 to 5 years, it certainly could be greater than that, into the future based on long-term trends in senior housing and changing attitudes of seniors. The chair of the Strategic Planning Committee would be the vice president of the board. Membership would consist of 2 or 3 current and former board members. The executive director would be a non-voting member of the committee. The July 1st email recommended making this change in 2 steps. First, approve a motion to eliminate the current Luther Village bylaw 3.12 that describes the purpose and membership of the Long-Range Planning Committee. And then second, to approve a motion to create a new Luther Village bylaw 3.12, creating a permanent strategic planning committee. A copy of the new bylaw 3.12 was included with the July 1st email. Note, changes to the bylaws require approval by 2/3 of the board. In other words, we have to have at least 6 votes. And with that, I would welcome and encourage any discussion, questions, or comments on this particular proposed change. Carol?
I know we always talk, or Bill, you always make reference to looking out the rear view mirror. And I think with having a pivot and start looking out the windshield, the front windshield, as to what is out there in senior living, senior communities, and gives us that opportunity to determine where do we want to go, what do we want to accomplish, and how are we going to go about that. We're always very mindful as to our particular plans, even working with, let's say, changing policy or procedure or protocol takes time. And we will continue with that. But it also allows us to be aware of communities, senior communities, and the trends in the communities or senior living, and the particular shift in attitude for retirees as to what they want and what they demand from communities. So hopefully this will allow us an opportunity to look at precise or very important changes that will possibly enhance our status as a retirement community. We're always very conscious that we want Luther Village to remain very much a valuable retirement community in our area, but we also want it to be a very viable community for the residents who live here and are enjoying their retirement years. And I think this allows us very much to be proactive versus being reactive.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Any other comments, questions on this particular change?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that the long-range planning committee as it exists has been useful in that it's identified a lot of issues and help focus and sort those out. And as you mentioned, some of them are not really board issues. They belong to the administration, and others we need to separate out on the board and become more focused. And so I think it's been a useful committee to that extent, but they're too broadly focused, and this would allow us to change and put the focus much more narrowly on some areas and separate out things instead of just having general discussions. Have very narrow discussions and be much more productive, I think.
Okay. Any other comments, discussion, anything at all? No. Okay, I would remind the board on these particular proposal for change, we're actually going to ask for 2 motions. We can't do that today because this is a workshop, but at the board meeting on July the 27th, there will be 2 motions offered. The first will be to eliminate the current verbiage in bylaw section 3.12, and then second motion to replace it with wording to create a strategic planning committee. The second proposal or change states the following: modify the membership qualifications of the board permanent finance and strategic committees to include both current and former board members. If we approve the creation of the strategic planning committee, the membership, the explanation of the membership for the strategic planning committee already includes verbiage that recommends both current and former board members would be eligible. So this second proposal would really only require a very minor change to bylaw 3.13, which creates the finance committee. And reading on here, the change would insert the phrase "and former board members" into the sentence describing the membership of the finance committee. The commentary for this change notes that the use of former board members is already allowed for the nomination task force. There are approximately 10 former board members living at Luther Village. My personal feeling is that we should not ignore the experience and judgment that they could bring to committee discussions. And so I'd consider making this change. Again, any comments, questions, comments? Bob?
Who would be eligible for the former board members?
It would, eligibility would be any former board member that's living here at Luther Village.
And how would you propose they be selected?
Well, the selection process, if we were going to follow recent, has been the president of the board has asked board members which committees they want to be on, and they would submit their names to the president, and then that person decides. In most cases, as you know, board members get the committee they have a preference for. I would think possibly either we could send out notices to the former board members and ask them if they'd like to be members. I did get a question about this proposal earlier in the week or last week. It does not automatically mean that any former board member who wants to be on the committee would automatically be selected. That would be up to the president. So it doesn't guarantee them a spot. But if a former board member would like to be on the committee and is willing to volunteer, they certainly would be considered. Quite frankly, as several of you know, I feel very strongly about this. I think it's such a waste of people's experience and talents not to ask these former board members perhaps to serve on one committee after they've left the board permanently. Any other comments?
I think Bob, in partial answer to that, the Finance Committee has 3 required members. Other than that, any others are optional, and I could easily envision a particular topic or something being considered by the Finance Committee that they could pull in somebody on a temporary basis.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah. This would open up that option, which now is not allowed.
Carol?
Well, I think one of the other things too is even as a retired or former board member, everyone is still under the fiduciary responsibilities of confidentiality and all of the other, responsibilities that we've taken on being a board member.
Yeah, that's a good observation, Carol. Thank you. Any other comments on this particular change? Again, this will be presented at a motion at the July 27th meeting, and we'll need 6 votes in order to receive approval. The third proposed change is replace the current oversight of the LCS Consulting Contract Committee with the oversight of a brokerage operations committee. The LCS consulting contract is going to be ending, I think we heard, is at the end of August, and there will be no need for a board oversight of that particular operation or a consulting contract. However, I'm going to suggest there is a need for the board of directors to provide ongoing oversight of the brokerage operations for Luther Village. This annual committee will take on and continue much of the work currently being done by the Long Range Planning Committee in terms of assessing the qualifications of incoming residents. Again, this approval of this particular proposal would be in the form of a board resolution only and would require a majority vote. Essentially, by approving this, what the board is recommending is that the incoming board in the next term and the president create this committee instead of a LCS consulting contract committee. Any discussion, questions, or comments?
Well, I think it is important to have that continuing oversight of the brokerage operations. one of the things with the long-range planning, and we worked, it was a very dedicated group that, in trying to work out with the brokerage, and we established through time, I think, a very, pleasant, candid relationship, especially with Claudia, in working together in creating some additions to their particular applications that prospective we were as board members hearing back from residents as to how is it certain residents have been admitted or have been allowed to become residents here. And in working through that, it was a matter of sorting out, improving the particular medical questionnaire that is sent to prospective buyer's doctor, and expanded as best we can and within the limits that we can. But it also was very much pointing out as to exactly what is Luther Village as a retirement community and what is Luther Village not. And I think there's a lot of buyers come here with a preconceived notion as to what we should be, and they're looking for that. And I think with working with Claudia, also working with Karen and Jan in determining or finding out exactly how they're presenting the community, we were able to work together and hopefully get a little bit much better clarification as to promoting what is Luther Village and what it is not as a retirement community.
Thank you, Carol. Any other comments?
The only comment I have on that, Carol, is that there is some language that we're putting into the contract that helps clean that up quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but it does not throw it all into the brokerage side. We have a major role to play to satisfy that particular paragraph too. So it's hopefully in the future we'll now that we have experience, we can resolve a lot of these issues, cleanly rather than, oh gosh, we didn't, something popped and we never envisioned that.
Russ, do you think, from your knowledge of what the contract appears to be, the contract with the brokerage operations, would it be appropriate then for this oversight committee then to also be oversight of that all the provisions of that contract are being met?
Probably. Yeah. There are a lot of parts of it that it's a question. Is it matter? Is it not? It's not just a judgment issue. But that's one of the things committee really is trying, is to clean up a lot of the issues and make them more specific, so it's easier to say, yes, this is the way it should be, or no, that's wrong. And so that's where we really worked on some of that.
Okay, but but wouldn't if we had an oversight of brokerage operations, that would be the natural vehicle then, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
To overlook. Okay,
Yes.
good. That's what
Yeah.
I wanted to get to. Any other comment? Anything else? Again, if we proceed with this will take the form of a board resolution, essentially giving advice to future boards and presidents of the board as to, it's a recommendation really. It will only take a majority vote in order to be approved. The final proposed change is one that is really pretty obvious. It is to eliminate the board of directors liaison to the LCS brokerage operations. And the obvious need for that is that if we create an oversight of brokerage operations, which was the proposal 3 above, there is no need then for a designated board liaison to the brokerage operations. Again, this would take the form of a resolution and only take a majority vote. Any comments or questions on this? It's pretty straightforward. Yeah. And with that, I'm going to assume that if there are any other comments on these proposed changes, please get in touch with me before the meeting on July the 27th. So if there are any questions, if you, like I am often, I hear something for a change, and I sit there and I think, oh, that sounds pretty good. And then 10 minutes after the meeting is over, I think, oh my gosh, I should have asked for this. And of course, I never do. So be it. So with that, all of the, I've got a few announcements to make. If you've not already done so, I would encourage residents to read the current Board Talk article in the July Lighthouse. It's entitled Sweet Success, and it provides an overview of the second annual, a summary of the second annual board retreat. It was written by Carol Micah. There are 4 standing committee meetings actually this week. Tomorrow, Life Enrichment will meet tomorrow morning, and dining will be in the afternoon. And on Friday, the Building and Grounds will meet on Friday morning, and the library on Friday afternoon. The next Board of Directors meeting is on Monday, July the 27th. And at that meeting, we will have the next report from a standing committee. The Building and Grounds will make their report. Any other announcements that need to be brought up at this point? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion by Alan Volker, and I have a second from Jack McCarthy. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you. And as always, we will have resident questions and comments, and the usual rules apply. Please wait for a microphone to appear and speak into that microphone and identify yourself for those who are watching on channel 1903. If you don't speak into the microphone, they cannot hear the question. So any questions or comments from the residents at the meeting today? I don't know, maybe we don't have any. Oh, we have.
Good morning, Diane Lobarski, Arlington. Can you tell me if the revised resident handbook is going to be delivered soon?
I'm going to ask someone from administration to speak to that.
Hi, I don't have a time frame of when it's going to be done being looked at. So I did receive from Russ so far, but the executive committee does have that for review, as well as myself and then other staff members. But Bea did a phenomenal job in getting things together. There are some new changes that that have come to light recently that we're going to have to update as well.
Any other questions?
I'm Jan from Arlington House. This is not a question, but it's a comment. I want to thank both Claudia and the board for recognizing the concerns over the qualifications for new residents. I really appreciate that that's on the top of the list. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm reminding of my days teaching, and you get to a point with the classroom and you start asking for questions, and then there are none. And then you stand there and you wonder, did I not ask the right questions or is this just a quiet group? And I'm going to assume this is just a quiet group. And with that, I'm going to call the meeting concluded. Thank you.